one reason they're running out of missiles and missile interceptors is because China has cut off the rare earth supplies. They spent years trying to find alternative rare earth supply chains to China. Well, they still haven't found it. And the U.S. manufacturing base was hollow out so much, it's impacting the U.S. military industrial complex. You know how many Tomahawk missiles they manufacture each year in the United States, Jamar? Take a guess.
I don't know the exact number, but it's not many. It's like 10
50
something.
50.
Yeah.
They manufacture 50 Tomahawk missiles in 1 year. I mean, like, you think that like that's gone in the first salvo of the war. Especially if you're going against a war in China. There's no way U.S. can replace its ammunition, and they can't even replace its ammunition in a fight.
大家好，这里是华人看世界 CNView 频道。今天我们邀请丝绸与钢铁播客主持人卡尔扎一起拆解正在快速变化的亚洲与中东局势。韩国释放出与朝鲜和解，推动签署和平条约的信号。美国对韩国军队的实际控制权究竟会不会因此受到挑战？与此同时，美军在波斯湾陷入困境，航母调动，军演暂停，军舰故障，暴露出怎样的战略疲态？从伊朗的导弹与无人机到美国难以补充的弹药和依赖中国的稀土供应链，这场较量背后拼的不只是武器，更是工业能力、地理位置和经济账本。日本推动再军事化，中国与韩国为何同时发出警告？特朗普对伊朗发动经济封锁，又会不会把中国、俄罗斯和金砖国家进一步推向去美元化？这一期我们就从韩国、伊朗和日本三条线索出发，看看美国霸权正在经历怎样的转折。
So I mean, like the U.S. like there's a lot of I saw just on Twitter earlier today. Some people are getting really pessimistic about how U.S. empire is the hegemony is nowhere close to over. I'm like, whoa, I'm sorry, I'm just a glass half full empty type of guy. Look at the state of U.S. Navy. Look at the stated objective of United States. Now they're going. The Persian Gulf has been, according to JD Vance, is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before they started the war. And the second goal is to get Iran to denuclearize. Well, guess what? There was actually a deal to denuclearize Iran that got torn up by Trump during his first term. So we're basically. The U.S. empire is experiencing, I think, its own Suez Canal moment. Suez Canal crisis was when the British and the French, they still thought they're still colonial empires. When Egypt said they want to nationalize Suez Canal, they're like, no, we're going to send troops to teach you natives a lesson. And then the Soviet Union and the United States, like, dude, what are you doing, man? What do you think you're doing, man? We're not going to support you on this. And it turns out that UK and France, they can carry out a military operation without direct support of the United States. So they had to call it off because it turns out they're paper tigers. That marks the beginning of an end for the British and French colonial empires. Now, right now, we're witnessing a beginning of an end of a U.S. empire in West Asia. And the people in East Asia are taking notes. They're looking at what happened to all the Gulf states that are getting hammered because they host U.S. bases. And they realize, oh, wow, if Iran can do that, imagine what China could do, right? And so people... like South Korea is already making their hedge. The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi was recently in South Korea. He's talking about China is the largest economy in the world, and South Korea has a benefit of being very close to China. And he quoted a Chinese poem, 近水楼台先得月, the pavilion that's closest will get the moon, get the light of the moon. Now he's talking about South Korea and getting closer to China, and Trump is helping. Trump is helping by pushing South Korea even closer. Go Trump, good Good job.
Yeah, go. A few points. U.S. media always looks at this stuff through a U.S. lens. And, there were reports coming out that would say, because Trump expended so many munitions against Iran, now he can't confront China. And it's like, dude, are you paying attention? He could have never confronted China, right? Like, you have warfighters tweaking off testosterone, jumping off boats. This does not look like this military is very thin, right?
One reason they're running out of missiles and missile interceptors is because China has cut off the rare earth supplies. They spent years trying to find alternative rare earth supply chains to China. Well, they still haven't found it. And the U.S. manufacturing base was hollow out so much, it's impacting the U.S. military industrial complex. How many Tomahawk missiles they manufacture each year in the United States, Jamar? Take a guess.
I don't know the exact number, but it's not many. It's like
50
something.
50.
Yeah.
They manufacture 50 Tomahawk missiles in 1 year. I mean, you think that that's gone in the first salvo of the war. Especially if you're going against a war in China. There's no way U.S. can replace its ammunition, and they can't even replace its ammunition in a fight against Iran. Forget about China. And besides, U.S. military industrial complex still dependent on the Chinese supply chain. Like Lockheed Martin CEO said, we can't really decouple. We can't really decouple from China. And also China also put export control on tungsten. So that's tungsten, another important component to make armor-piercing ammunitions. I guess United States can always fall back on depleted uranium because they never care about radioactive damages to either to their soldiers or to civilians. But yeah, so not gonna happen, man. The confrontation with China is a fantasy. I think by now everybody should have realized that.
Yeah, you would think that there is nothing that gets across the capability of a particular military than that military going to war against a country who spends $1 trillion. Iran doesn't spend anywhere near $1 trillion. But it's an issue of geography, technical competence, all of that stuff. And
math, because the whole math and physics of missile defense is you're trying to shoot down a bullet with a bullet, which means your bullet better be smarter than the bullet that's coming at you. And Iran, all Iran has to do is locate the stationary target, make sure their ballistic missile hit that target. When you're doing missile defense against the incoming Iranian missile barrage, you have to figure out their missile trajectory. You have to figure out their speed. You have to figure out the exact moment you need to intercept it so it doesn't hit its target. So by design, your missile interceptor is going to be much, much more expensive than missile you're trying to intercept. Now, that might work against weaker opponent with a very limited missile stockpile, like in case of Afghanistan, Iraq, countries with no air defense. But when you run into a medium-sized power, a world power like Iran is, that has tens of thousands of ballistic missiles, that's not a math or economic game you can win, because inherently you're going to spend way more than Iran trying to shoot down every Iranian missile and drones. And drones is even cheaper. They slap some motorcycle engine on a little model airplane, and then it's like $50,000 to produce, and you're firing like a $10 million missile interceptor trying to shoot it down. So I mean that's the math doesn't compute. I mean, U.S. I said before, U.S. can print money, but they cannot print missiles. or missile
That's right.
interceptors.
Yeah, real things are different than just fictitious money. And by the way, even if you're going against a power like Russia, right? Russia have been sending up like 600-700 missiles, drones, that stuff a night. Your air defense is going to get shredded. And that's, the math doesn't work on this stuff. One of the other interesting things that took place, and by the way, I do want to emphasize before closing out this particular subject, it is a momentous change. I think I want to highlight the Suez Canal moment. The U.S. goes with the idea of a war of aggression. The U.S. gets stopped immediately. The bases and everything else get torched. And the U.S. at that point falls back into a position of basically an economic attack. But it needs to be made clear, though, it couldn't accomplish its original mission. What's happening now is a fallback position on that. I agree with you. It's the Suez Canal moment. Being pushed out of West Asia.
U.S. has no military option because they try all the options. They started with the aerial campaign. That didn't work. And then they tried to do the blockade on blockade. That didn't work. And that's why Trump had to sign the MOU, the surrender document at Versailles. But for some reason, he thought, I'm going to finagle this. I know the art of deal. I'm going to put pressure on them by doing, going back on the deal and attack them. Well, guess what? And then we went into the tit for tat attack across the Persian Gulf and Iran and U.S. bases. That did not work. So now the MOU grace period is over. We're back to blockade on blockade. But the problem with carrying out blockade, Jamar,Blockade takes time.
回看这场对话，表面上谈的是韩国、朝鲜、伊朗、日本、中国以及美国在不同地区的军事和经济动作，实际上贯穿始终的是一个更深层的问题。当一个国家长期依靠军事同盟、金融体系和全球基地维持影响力时，它究竟还能不能按照过去的方式继续支配世界？从韩国释放希望改善南北关系，推动正式结束朝鲜战争的信号，到日本国内越来越强烈的在军事化倾向，我们看到的并不是几个孤立的新闻事件，而是一套旧有秩序正在出现松动。朝鲜战争从1950年持续到1953年，最后留下的只是停战协定，而不是和平条约。几十年来，美国一直通过驻军、联合军演和战时指挥机制深度介入半岛安全事务。可是当韩国开始思考能不能自己处理南北关系，当日本开始讨论如何突破和平宪法的限制，这就说明美国盟友正在重新评估一个关键问题：继续把自身安全完全寄托在华盛顿身上，究竟是保障还是风险？美国过去的同盟体系建立在一个前提之上，那就是美国能够提供稳定而压倒性的安全保护。但如今这个前提正在被现实一点点削弱，波斯湾的冲突暴露出远程部署、航母调动、弹药补充和基地防护的巨大压力，美军舰艇出现故障，航母打击群需要在不同战区之间来回调动。更让人看见账面上的军力规模和真正能够持续投入的作战能力并不是一回事。拥有多少装备是一回事，能不能把装备送到战场，能不能持续补充弹药，能不能承受长期消耗又是另一回事。这也是所谓苏伊士运河时刻真正值得关注的地方。20世纪50年代，英法仍然沉浸在殖民帝国的旧日想象中，却在苏伊士运河危机中发现，没有美国支持，他们甚至无法独立完成一场重大军事行动。那场危机不仅是一次撤军，更象征着英法殖民体系开始退潮。今天美国在西亚面对的困境，或许也在提醒全世界，一个国家即使仍然拥有庞大的军费、先进的武器和遍布海外的基地，也不代表它能够随意把自己的意志强加给其他国家。尤其在导弹和无人机大量使用的时代，战争越来越不是简单比较谁的武器更贵，谁的军费更多。进攻方可以用相对廉价的方式发动饱和攻击，而防守方却要用昂贵的拦截弹逐一应对。用昂贵的拦截系统去拦截廉价无人机，用有限的库存去应对持续不断的导弹齐射，这笔账从一开始就很难算平。美国可以印钞票，却不能在短时间内凭空印出导弹、拦截弹、军舰和熟练的产业工人。真正决定战争走向的，往往不是口号，而是工业基础、供应链、生产速度和长期承受力。从这个角度看，对伊朗实施更严厉的制裁未必能够达到预期效果。伊朗已经在长期制裁环境中建立了规避和适应机制， 中国、俄罗斯以及其他国家也在探索不依赖美元的贸易方式。石油以人民币结算，金融交易绕开美国能够直接监控的渠道，表面上看只是技术性的安排，实际上却是在削弱美国通过美元体系施加压力的能力。倘若美国进一步对中国大型银行实施刺激制裁，那么它面对的就不再是一个单独的伊朗问题，而是全球贸易体系和金融秩序的连锁震荡。更值得警惕的是，经济制裁最终很少只伤害被制裁的一方。海上封锁会推高能源价格，供应链中断会增加制造业成本，金融对抗会冲击普通人的储蓄、就业和生活。美国国内油价上涨，消费者承担更高的运输和生活成本，而石油企业和金融机构却可能从动荡中获利。对外发动冲突的人往往把代价包装成战略必要，但对普通人来说，代价就是加油站的价格、超市里的账单以及越来越不稳定的未来。日本的变化同样值得我们保持警惕。美国过去曾经限制日本军事扩张，如今却因为自身力量不足，转而鼓励日本承担更多军事责任。这种转变背后，既有美国在东亚寻找代理和帮手的需要，也有日本国内试图通过军事凯恩斯主义刺激经济的盘算。汽车产业受到中国电动汽车冲击，制造业面临转型压力。于是有人希望把生产能力转向坦克、军舰和武器平台，但历史已经一次次证明，把经济困境转化为军备竞赛，并不能真正解决结构性问题，反而可能把整个社会推向更危险的道路。所以我们今天看到的并不是某一个国家突然衰落，也不是另一个国家简单取代它，而是世界正在从单一中心主导走向更加复杂多中心的竞争。韩国在重新寻找平衡，日本在重新计算代价，中国和俄罗斯在推动新的贸易与金融安排，越来越多国家也开始考虑如何减少对单一体系的依赖。这个变化不会在一夜之间完成，但每一次制裁、每一次军事威胁、每一次盟友被迫承担更多风险，都会让更多国家重新思考自己的选择。这场对话留给我们的最大启示是，判断国际局势不能只看声明和数字，更要看能力、看产业、看地理、看利益关系，也要看普通民众最终承担什么。一个国家可以在媒体上宣称自己拥有绝对优势，也可以不断发出强硬威胁，但如果它无法持续生产弹药，无法稳定维护盟友，无法控制战争成本，甚至无法让自己的经济承受制裁反噬，那么所谓的霸权就已经出现了裂缝。历史从来不是由一纸声明决定的，而是在一次次危机、一次次试探和一次次重新站队中慢慢转向。清朝覆灭之后，天下并没有立即迎来稳定，而是在漫长动荡中重新建立秩序。今天的世界也一样，旧秩序尚未完全退场，新秩序还没有最终成型。真正重要的不是急着为任何一方欢呼，而是保持判断力，理解力量如何变化，也看清战争和对抗背后的真实代价。你怎么看美国霸权正在经历的转折？韩国和日本未来会走向更大的自主，还是会继续依附美国？对于去美元化和新的国际金融体系，你认为这是缓慢调整，还是一场即将加速的变革？欢迎在评论区留下你的看法，也欢迎点赞订阅，持续观看更多精彩视频。